Anatomy Assignment 3 by Nathan Butt. Lungs and lobes. The lungs suck in oxygen, which the lobes collect that oxygen from the bronchus. Each lobe has a portion lobe. These lobes are connected by tissue walls. There are 10 lobes in the right lung and 8 in the left lung. The different lobes are left inferior, left superior, right middle, and right superior. Pleural membrane. Each lung in the body are placed with a separate membrane layer. This layer of membrane helps keep the lungs with a certain for each other and keeps the air tight. You are always left with a little bit of air in your lungs so that it makes it easier to breathe. The membrane is filled with a small amount of fluid which forms a thin film of liquid between the pleural space to stop friction. Thoracic cavity. The thoracic cavity is in your chest cavity. The thoracic cavity protects the vital organs such as, example, your heart, your lungs, your esophagus, and they are all protected. As you can see by the picture, you've got to help you with the lobes, you've got the inner lobe, which are green, your outer lobes, which are coloured blue, and then your middle lobe on the right lung, which is purple. And then you have your anterior axillary line, which is on the slightly outer line of the ribs, as you can see. Uh, your clavicular line, which is on the clavicle, which is your middle of the clavicle, which goes straight down, and your mid-sternal line, which is the line going straight down through the spine and the middle of the sternum. Visceral pleural. It is a thin serous membrane tissue layer that sticks to the lung surface. It is the innermost of the two pleural membrane layers invested in the lungs. Internal, external, intercostal muscles. There are two kinds of intercostal muscles, internal and external. Internal costal. The internal muscles are found between the ribs. Breathing in. The external muscles contract and the intercostal relax with movement of the ribs and the thorax. Arterioles. Structure. Arterioles are strong and have strong thick walls. They also contain a percentage of smooth muscle. Function. Just like arteries, the blood is carried away from the heart and to the working muscle tissues. Capillaries. Structure. They are very small, which you cannot be seen by the human eye. The walls of the capillaries are 1 to 2 cell thick walls thick. This is so that gas exchange can take place. They are really narrow. The blood cells can only pass through in a single file. As you can see by the picture, you've got veins which are blue and arteries which are orange. As you can see, it's like splitting off into an arteriole, which then splits off into capillaries, and same with the veins. It splits off into veins, so then splits off into a venule, which then, as the blood and oxygen and all that is passed through, it splits off into arterioles as well. Veins. Veins are blood vessels that carry deoxygenated blood back to the heart, except that the pulmonary vein carries oxygenated blood from the lungs to the heart. Venules. The venules are the type of blood vessels that transport the blood around the body. They drain blood from capillaries into the veins so that the blood can go back to the heart. Structure. The structure of the venules. The walls are made up of 3 layers. The layers are endothelium, muscle, endothelium, muscle and elastic tissue, and the last layer of the venules is a fibrous connective tissue. Arteries. Arteries carry blood away from the heart, except the pulmonary artery carries oxygenated blood. It's the biggest of the blood vessels which transports blood away from the left ventricle from the heart. Neural control. With neural control, it reacts within less than a second. This controls the level of minute respiration. The main stream of the levels of carbon dioxide, oxygen, and hydrogen in the blood flow. The neural control determines rate of respiration, which then determines levels of low oxygen and carbon dioxide and hydrogen. Intercostal muscles to push more air in/out of the lungs. Chemical control. Carbon dioxide is released. Chemoreceptors detect carbon dioxide within the bloodstream, which then the brain detects the carbon dioxide within the bloodstream that then takes the carbon dioxide away from the working muscles to the lungs so that the lungs can exhale the carbon dioxide. Gaseous exchange. This occurs when gaseous exchange happens in the capillaries which surrounds the alveoli. The alveoli and capillaries are only 1 cell thick, which allows gaseous exchange. Carbon dioxide diffuses away from the capillaries, which then goes into the alveoli, which then gets inhaled. Inspiration. Inspiration occurs when the inspiratory muscles, example diaphragm and intercostal muscles, while contraction of the intercostal muscles elevates the ribs. These both cause the lungs to expand, which then increases the volume of their internal air passages. Expiration. Expiration is when the intercostal muscles relax. With this, the lungs will go back to their original shape. The pressure of the air in the lungs increases above the air pressure outside of the body, which the air leaves the body. Tidal volume. Tidal volume is the amount of air breathed in/out in one single breath. Tidal volume increases the respiratory line and also increases the breathing. When breathing, you use your diaphragm and intercostal muscles in between your ribs. These muscles have receptors that have a larger tidal volume so that gaseous exchange can happen. Vital capacity. Vital capacity is where the total amount of air that is inhaled in one breath and exhaled completely. Vital capacity is tidal volume plus respiratory reserve volume and expiratory reserve volume equals vital capacity. Residual volume is where you breathe out. You are always residual volume is where you breathe out. You are always left with a little bit of air in the lungs, because if you had obviously no air left in the lungs, they would contract beyond their normal size, and it would be very hard for you to get the air back into the lungs so you can carry on breathing with the respiratory cycle. Delivery of nutrients. The nutrients that are in your body are in your bloodstream, which is then transported through to the working muscles while exercising for them to have the energy while warming up, and the blood going through the muscle so that the muscles have the energy to contract and stay warm with the blood flowing through. Removal of waste products. Waste products must be removed from the body. If they are not removed, they can cause chemical reactions or damage to the cells. The waste products that must be removed are which includes carbon dioxide. Function of blood. Oxygen transport. Oxygen is transported through the body within the bloodstream because of the capillaries and then with the walls being 1 cell thick. Diffusion can happen easily and oxygen can reach the working muscles within the blood. Clotting. When you get a cut on your skin, it is the platelets within the blood that come to the surface of the skin to then build up over the cut to form a scab, which then stops the infections and viruses getting into the bloodstream, which can cause infections and viruses. Fighting infections. White blood cells. The function of a white blood cell is to fight infections and diseases within the blood. The lifespan of a white blood cell is only a few days, but there are 5 to 10,000 of white blood cells per litre of blood. Thermoregulation. Thermoregulation is when your body is either too hot or too cold. For dilation is when your body is too hot for the blood vessels to grow bigger and come to the surface of the skin so that oxygen can get into the body and cool down the blood. When you are hot, your hair muscles relax, blood flow with capillaries increase. Vasodilation is where the blood vessels widen so that you can get more blood flow to the working muscles when exercising. Thermoregulation, vasoconstriction. The hair sticks up and traps the air within the oxygen within the hairs to keep the body warm. Blood flow to the capillaries decreases. Vasoconstriction occurs when you are exercising and the blood vessels get thinner so more blood can flow to the working muscles. Blood transport around the body. The blood is transported through the body from the heart. It then goes to the arteries, which is then separated into arterioles, which is then transported to the capillaries and the working muscles, and then transported to the veins, which then takes the deoxygenated blood back to the heart. This is my first video on purpose games of the heart structure. And this is my video 2 of the respiratory system. And thank you for watching.